concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, guys? I'm Joshua Bardwell. It's time to stream. It's time to stream. And if it always sounds a little weird when I first do that part, you know, the part where I'm like, "What's up, guys?" It's because I'm listening to myself in my ear to make sure the stream isn't messed up. So you know how confusing it is when you're hearing your own voice echoed back at you. That's what's going on. But everything is good. The stream is good. Alex, good work on the stream today. I haven't called out my producer, Alex, very often. I usually only shout at him when he screws up. But today and in recent weeks, the stream has been high quality. My hosting, not so much. So glad you guys are here. We have... I am actually, I know I made a video this morning about how I didn't get a Tango 2, but that was not right. I'll show you in a minute. My Tango 2. I got it right here. Hello, Fierwerk Bombay. Alex Vanover is my producer. No, Julian S. Alex Vanover isn't my producer, just Alex. It's, Alex, it's a joke I stole from Dr. Disrespect, a famous streamer who shouts at his producers. I assume that, oh, you know what? I am early. Here's why I'm early. I'll tell you why. My intro music is 4 minutes and like 3 seconds long. It's like 4 minutes long, almost exactly. So I start the stream at 6 minutes, 56. But I started the stream I looked down at the clock and it was 54. And I was like, oh, four, I have to start the stream. Because the song is 4 minutes long. So I started the stream. But that's Flybat FPV says, put the Xbox controller down. Did you see it? Did you? This is my Tango 2, you guys. I did get one. It's an interesting design. I like the dual gimbals. I like the fact that I can play Xbox with it. Oh. Camo Master asks thoughts on the Beta FPV 95X Cadex. I have a video on the Beta FPV 95X coming to this week on my channel. It's going to come out Monday or Tuesday. So if you're wanting to see that, that will be there as well. And that's what we do, you guys. That's what we do here. I changed the title of the live stream because I like views. And I am going to talk about the Tango 2, despite the fact that TBS didn't send me one. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. Despite the fact they didn't send me one, I do have some thoughts about it. I'm not going to say who showed me one, whether it was Bot Grinder or Little Stellar Fox or, see, now I just have to name all the, or Cricket. I just have to name all the TBS sponsored pilots so that no one of them gets in trouble, right? Not that they would get in trouble, because TBS is cool. Why would they do that? But I have seen it. I have seen it, and I have had my hands on it. I have some thoughts about it. I've been putting them together. I've been keeping them to myself because I didn't want to get the pilot who showed it to me in trouble by breaking the NDA. But now that everyone has got it, I can talk about it. And I am going to talk about it just as soon as a few more people trickle into the live stream. We have right now 339 concurrent viewers. That is an unusually high number for this early in the stream, and I assume that's what you're here for. But what always happens is I put the good stuff right at the beginning of the stream, and then somebody comes in 20 minutes later, and they're like, did you talk about the TBS Tango 2? And I'm like, oh my God. So we're going to give it just a few minutes, but I am going to talk about that. Tommy Ziegers, the DJI Goggle AV in is now fixed latency. Yeah, it's fixed. The AV input latency problem is fixed. I am a sucker. I'm a sucker for a good coffee cup, you guys. And I stole this from the Rotor Riot warehouse last time I was in Orlando. I thought the least I could do was use it on the stream. You can get these in the Rotor Riot store. I'm only using it on, normally I just swig from the bottle. I'm only using it on stream because then I can justify having stolen it from the warehouse as it was like a sponsor thing. So I am going to get to questions. And in case you're new here, this is what we do. You ask questions. You ask questions. I answer questions. If you really want to get me to answer your question, you got to hit the $sign down in the lower left. It'll make a super chat. Somebody leave a super chat so people can see how it works. It'll get called out, and I will make sure I get to your question without, because they go by so fast. I'm not hurt, Dirty Bomb. I didn't expect to get one. I'm not hurt. Andy RC was offered one to test early, but you would have to buy it. Yikes, Andy RC. Dude, I wonder how many of these people who got it early actually were forced to buy it. I mean, getting the opportunity to use it early, I guess, is good. But anyway. Andy RC, do you want one, Andy? Patron shout out. Oh, you couldn't afford to? Am I one of Andy RC's patrons? I'm not going to look it up on stream because I don't want to embarrass myself if I'm not. But I try to sub to everybody I know who has a Patreon at the $5 level, just as a kind of way of supporting other people out there. If I'm not your patron, Andy, I'm going to get that taken care of. So, patron chat, or regular chat, super chat, thank you. Arshit Anand for 40 rupees. Does the Tango 2 look like crap? Yes or no? No comment. Not even for a super chat. No, I'll tell you about it in a little bit. And over here on the left, these are my patrons over in my Discord server. And that is one of the very few advantages of being a patron. Because I try to treat everybody equally, but only patrons get in the Discord server. And we'll see what the patrons are thinking about the Tango 2. But before we do that, keep trickling in. We're up to 400 concurrent viewers. Damn. You guys really want to know what I think about it, and I am going to tell you. But let's get a few other things out of the way while people continue to trickle into the live stream. Let me get this off screen. That shouldn't be there. Mass panic. Remember those drones over Colorado? The people flying fleets of drones over Colorado. Well, it turns out they may not even exist. No one has actually been able to document evidence that they're real. Oops. So it could just be mass hysteria. No one knows. Oh, but if only we had remote ID, then we could have tracked these drones. Really? You think that the kind of person who could put together a fleet of 30 giant 6-foot drones flying in formation, you think that person is going to, oh, I wonder what I'll do about the requirement to have remote ID on my drones. Obviously not. So that didn't happen. And the other thing I think is interesting, so the Super Bowl is happening this week, right? Super Bowl. And of course, there is a TFR, a temporary flight restriction around the stadium, which means no one's allowed to fly. But people are being arrested. People are being arrested for flying drones around the Super Bowl. And I say, how? How are they finding these pilots? Since the whole purpose of remote ID is to allow the government to easily find the pilots of drones flying in an unauthorized manner, how are they doing it now? And it turns out that according to this story, the FBI has all kinds of tools for like geolocating based on the transmitter signal. The FBI has these tools for finding pilots, tracking them down. They are tracking them down. They are finding them. So tell me again why we need remote ID. Yeah, apparently the system is working. Anyway, more will come out soon about remote ID. I am putting together my comment to the FCC or FAA, and I'll be doing a video soon about that. Okay, so 476 viewers. I know what you're here for. You're here to hear about the TBS Tango 2. And I got to tell you, my first impression when I saw the TBS Tango 2 was, my honest first impression was, I am really glad that it doesn't have a giant screen on it like the original TBS Tango. I was never a fan of the form factor of the original TBS Tango. And I said, if the original TBS Tango, if the new TBS 2 has the same form factor, then it's dead to me. But it doesn't, thank God. It doesn't have that giant FPV screen. It doesn't have an FPV receiver in it. I know some people really liked that, but I never saw the point. If you're going to have goggles anyway, why would you? Oh, wow, they're even blocking me from getting to their website. For real? How do they even know my IP address? Surely not. That's got to be just a fluke. Oh, there we go. Okay. Phew, that was close. So, I'm really happy with this. Now, it does have a tiny, tiny screen. It's basically the same screen layout as like a QX7 with a little screen on it. You can use OpenTX in the screen. It is usable, but of course, I love the gigantic, colorful screen on my T16. But this is, I think, targeting a different audience. Now, I really dig that the Tango 2 is so portable and storable. One of the things that really I struggle with my transmitter is, number one, I'm always worried that the switches or gimbals are going to break when I've got it in my backpack. They never have, but I'm always worried about it. And it takes up more room in my backpack than it really needs to because I need to give it space. So the fact that the Tango 2, I think this is really clever. It's got foldable antenna, it's got foldable gimbals, and all of the switches are flat and don't protrude. Now, I've seen people making comments and saying, you'll take my switches from my cold, dead hands. I understand that there is an appeal to that kind of switch, but I feel like the trade-off here is kind of worth it. Because we've got momentary switches, we got 3-position switches, we got 2-position switches. It's easy to tell which is which, there's no confusion. And when you stick this into a backpack, it is not going to break. And I totally dig that. So I actually think that's really cool. As far as the usability goes, I didn't get the chance to fly it for an extended period of time. But for me, the form factor was way better than the X-Lite. Even though I pinch, and this is obviously more made for thumbs than pinching. Even though I pinch, I found it to be reasonably comfortable to hold in the hands. And I thought I didn't hate it. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Oh, by the way, the price point is also pretty freaking decent. $150 for the standard, $200 for the Pro, with the and I would get the Pro with the folding gimbals and so forth. I think the Pro is the one I would get. But it's not all sunshine and roses. So here are the things that I don't like about the Tango 2. And this is the big one that's going to be a deal breaker for many, many people. it's Crossfire only. No module bay, no D8 module, no D16 module. So, if you like flying tiny whoops, nope. Okay, Beta FPV sells tiny whoops with a built-in Crossfire receiver. That's the only one I know of off the top of my head. So, you're just stuck. You need to have a Crossfire receiver on every single one of your quads. And Crossfire is great. Crossfire is my go-to. But I don't want to have Crossfire on my tiny whoop. That seems like overkill. It also means that many bind and flies that beginners would buy they're gonna need to put a Crossfire receiver in themselves, which people may struggle with. So that to me is the big downside. I see why they did it. It's a gutsy move to say we're not supporting FreeSky. I mean, I get that, but it means it's going to lock a lot of people out. Oops, sorry about that, guys. However, if you look at something like the Jumper T16, which has the internal multi-protocol module and can take a Crossfire module, I mean, granted, you're going to spend more money, but you're going to be able to bind to literally anything out there. Okay, not Futaba, but almost anything out there. And that, to me, if the Tango 2 had a 2.4 gigahertz capability or an external module capability of any kind, I would seriously be thinking about switching to it. It ticks so many boxes, but especially that portable and durable box. But the fact that it doesn't run 2.4 gig is probably going to be a deal breaker. Another deal breaker, and I've been reviewing one of the advantages of not getting the unit is that I get a couple weeks to see the response to everybody else's video. So when I release my video, I have more information than was had on day one. Another thing that I wouldn't have thought of that I see people commenting on is that there's no trim switches, which means if you fly fixed wings, this is pretty much a no-go because fixed wing pilots, I'm not a fixed wing pilot, but they seem to value trim switches a lot. So one more thing I want to say about the Tango 2, and that is I am really thrilled with the way that TBS handled the software aspect of it. TBS has a history of, they develop some stuff proprietary. They also develop some stuff with like Betaflight, and so forth. But I've always been a little bit worried that TBS is going to say, screw this open source garbage. We're going to take our ball. We're going to make our own ecosystem. They have the resources to do it. It would cost them time and money, but they could do it. TBS, once upon a time, I heard a rumor that TBS was going to develop their own flight control software and not use Betaflight anymore. I don't know if that rumor was true. It was just a rumor I heard. And I thought, if they do that, some people are going to switch, and that's going to be like a big deal. So I'm really happy with the Tango. They had their own software on it, and there were things to like and things to dislike about it. I love the fact that they have forked OpenTX. And then I really love the fact that they are going to merge all their changes back to OpenTX. So, for example, will we finally get a Crossfire menu built into OpenTX so we don't have to use the damn Lua script anymore? That alone, I would sing the praises of the Tango 2 if it made that happen. This new Crossfire shot thing. What's Crossfire shot? So there is a bug in OpenTX. The bug in OpenTX is that the processor running on the radio is not synced up correctly with the external module. And so because they're not synced up, there is inconsistent latency in the signal. And it means that there can be jumps in the signal and so forth. Jesse T says there are trim adjustments. Where are the trim adjustments on the Tango 2? Jesse, there are no trim switches. I mean, I can see that's true. If there are trim adjustments but no trim switches, how does that work? I mean, the ability to do sub-trim, that's not what a fixed-wing pilot needs, the ability to reach over with their thumb and bump those switches while flying to trim out the plane. Software trim is not what a fixed-wing pilot needs. Obviously, they have sub-trim. Steady says you double-click the wheel. You double-click the wheel, then you can trim. All right, well, we'll leave that. Like I said, I don't fly fixed-wing, and I just was repeating a comment from another fixed-wing pilot. Yeah, if you have to scroll through the menu with audio cues, I'm not loving that, but it's nice that they thought of it. It is nice that they thought of it. Maybe that's good enough. I'll leave that to the fixed-wing pilots to judge. Thank you, comments, for clarifying that, though. Yeah. I was talking about the heartbeat. So, there we go. So there's been a bug in OpenTX for a long time where it wasn't synced up with the module. And this new Crossfire shot thing, like, woo, what is Crossfire shot? Basically, it just means that TBS finally did the work to fix this heartbeat sync issue that was causing inconsistent and additional latency. Interestingly, this has been fixed with the internal module since OpenTX 2.3, but it was not fixed for external modules. And thank God somebody finally came along and did the work and will be contributing that back, and we can all benefit from that. Yeah, UAV Tech in the comments points out that this heartbeat bug in OpenTX affects all external modules, not just Crossfire. It affects R9 in a big way. Every 200 milliseconds, there is a change in latency, and it causes Betaflight's feed forward to flip out. So this new Crossfire shot thing that TBS is hyping up, it's not just a benefit for Crossfire, it's a benefit for every external module. And it's so great that I assume it was related to the development of the Tango 2, that as long as they were in there working on OpenTX, they were like, let's fix this thing. And that is fantastic. It's also really great to see that TBS has finally got OpenTX and Betaflight devs kind of working together in a way that they weren't before. So, very, very exciting. So those are my thoughts about the TBS Tango 2. I have ordered one. I will be getting one. I will do a review of it. I decided to do a review of it the minute that the unnamed person, it was Bot Grinder. No, it wasn't Bot Grinder. That the unnamed person showed me one. I was like, this is pretty decent. And I was like, I got to review this. And despite, although there are people out there who see a beef where, I'm not going to let personal stuff get in the way of serving my viewers, which is you. And if there's a good product out there, I'm going to tell you about it. But for me, the lack of 2.4 gigahertz probably would be a deal breaker, especially as someone who tests and reviews quads. This could never be my daily driver because I couldn't review anything that was, yeah. Caesar FPV wants to see Steele review a Tango 2. I'm sure he would do a product showcase, but could you really call it a review? What is he going to say about it? It's not that great. Of course he's not going to say that. TBS Pace's, you know that big house he's got? You know that Tesla? That all comes from TBS, right? There are people who say that you can't be objective if you're tied too closely to a single vendor. And I agree with that. If you're tied too closely to a single vendor, you can't be objective. And there was a time when I did not have any affiliations so that I could be purely objective. And then there came a time when I was like, okay, well, if I want to do this full time, I have to pay the bills somehow. And the way that I try to address that is by having ties to a lot of different vendors. So I have ties to Race Day Quads, I have ties to Banggood, I have ties to Get FPV, I have affiliates with Newbie Drone, Ready Made RC, Amazon. And if any one of them were to say, hey, if you don't do what we want, and they haven't done this, but if any one of them were to try to apply pressure, I could say, well, I hate to lose you, but that's life. But when someone is tied wholly to a single vendor, like Steele and TBS, he's there to sell his products. They're good products, but he's not there to review them in an objective way, right? What is he going to say? This new Apex frame I developed. Well, here are the pros and the cons. No, he's there to sell. And it's working. He has a Tesla. He has a Lotus. He has a gorgeous house. His house is gorgeous. Whew. Anyway, I'm not complaining. I'm not going to slaughter it, S. Grace. No. Okay, Travis says, look at Bruce. Super objective, but super poor. Bruce takes it too far the other way. No offense to Bruce. I respect him, and he obviously has his principles where he wants them to be. In my opinion, you can be objective and you can be truthful while still, at the very least, you could have a Patreon where people support you. And he does. And I'm one of his patrons. But I don't think that, like, if I have an affiliate relationship with Walmart, that doesn't taint my, because like I don't know if Walmart doesn't have an affiliate program. It's just an example. But like Walmart sells everything. So there's no incentive to push any one product. There's just an incentive to push you toward the store. Okay? And that's the way I look at it. By having affiliate relationships with huge stores that sell everything, then you can still be objective about any one product. Yeah. You just have to value being truthful more than you value shilling for sales, which is, I find, easy to do. That's a good point. Steele probably still flies his Tyrannus. He's had Tyrannus for a long time. Anyway, that's my thought on the Tango 2. Look forward to a review in a few weeks, whenever it comes in the mail. Let's get to the questions. Let's get to the questions, guys. Is there a way to shut off or disable the DJI Air unit from a switch or something so I can fly line of sight without it using power? MHCP, probably what you would want is like a Real Pit device. Real Pit is a device that can switch up to 1 amp of load from an aux channel. However, you'd want to be careful. The Air unit pulls about 10 watts. So you would need minimum 10 volts of input power. You'd want to power it from VBAT, like 14 volts or something, to get yourself down below that 1 amp. And even then, I'm not sure you'd want to push that too far. But yes, that is something you can do. Diet Battery Acid says, hi JB, when I try to connect my brushless whoop to BL Heli Suite, it says, connection to flight controller failed. Please check USB serial port and power connection to the interface. Diet Battery Acid, most likely you are selecting the wrong interface type. Let me pull up BL Heli Suite here on my screen. No, I don't want to go to the webpage and download it. Are you using, you say brushless whoop, so probably you're not using BL Heli Suite 32. Let me show you. What you really want, what you probably really want is BL Heli Configurator, but don't get the Chrome version. That's deprecated. It's not used anymore. Go to BL Heli Configurator, this GitHub project, and download BL Heli Configurator, and that has some automated, it takes away some of the options that people set wrong and just does the right thing automatically. This is the app you want, and probably that is going to solve your problem. So that's what I would recommend. Squishy7 in the Discord asks, if I have a UFL antenna, like an Emax Nano, and I want to shorten it, can I cut a portion off and solder the element shield back together, assuming I don't want to direct solder the antenna to the VTX? Squishy, there are methods for splicing coaxial cable. Most people don't have the skill to do it correctly, especially on those little teeny tiny coaxes. I don't suggest that you try and splice it. I just suggest that you like put it in a loop or something. That's what I would say. Julder points out Steele's first rule is consistency. He wouldn't even bother looking at new stuff as long as his current stuff does the job reliably. That's a really good insight, Julder. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah. Ian F says, any micro battery testing coming? Ian, I'll tell you a piece of news about the battery testing. A major vendor asked if we would test literally all of their batteries. So first of all, I have a guy who is helping with the testing. He has the battery test machine. I know I've said this before. This time it is working. Tests are actually being done. Yes, it's finally going to happen. But he received a box with like 30 different batteries in it, and he is working his way through every single one of this vendor's batteries. When that is done, we'll release the results, but he's been working on it for about 3 weeks now. It's a lot of freaking batteries to work through. So there will be some micro battery testing coming, in that this vendor has some micro batteries, but I'm more excited to tell you that there will be soon a huge library of test results just from this one vendor, But I expect that when other vendors see what happened, they will follow suit. And that would be great. It's tough because in the past, I have bought batteries via secret shopper so that the vendor doesn't know that the battery it can't be cherry picked. And the problem with that is that you can only test a few batteries. And when this vendor came to me and said, will you test all of our batteries? My first thought was, well, could you trust the results if you cherry pick them? But the value of being able to test all of these batteries, it was like, there's just too much value there. So let's go for it. ENF, I'm not going to say who it is until the time that it's time to release the results. So that's coming. We're working our way through them. It's going to be a few more weeks until the tests are done. I'm very happy to say that tests are being done. They're rolling through. I'm happy with the test protocol, and I am looking forward to finally publishing some more battery test results. I know that it's been a while since I've done that, and I've talked about that before, but I'm happy to be able to be doing that soon. Popular Mechanics asks, is it bad to leave your transmitter on all day instead of powering it off between flights waiting for the next race? No, I don't think it's bad. It's made to be on. There's no downside to leaving it on versus turning it off. Steve M says, is LQ one of the OSD elements that can be viewed in the DJI Goggle? Steve, I'm 99% sure that you get RSSI only, not RSSI DBM or LQ. Copter Flights asks, hey Josh, my beta FPV flies okay on JESC 24 kilohertz, but as soon as I flash 48 kilohertz, it can only hover for 5 seconds and it falls to the ground. Any thoughts? Yeah, you got to go back to 24K. Your ESC just can't handle 48K. Sorry. You could try Jazz Maverick. Some people who have been able to get it work on Jazz Maverick can't get it work on JESC and vice versa. But try Jazz Maverick, but you just may be unlucky and not be able to do it, Copter Flights. I got a question for you guys about JESC. Have you had any quads where after you flash JESC, ESC number 1 goes away and won't come back? It's always hard to tell when something is just a fluke versus where it might be a widespread problem. I have heard enough people ask me this problem that I'm starting to wonder if there's something about JESC that is killing ESC number 1. Tell me in the comments. Can I make a poll or something? No, I don't know how to do that. Don't tell me if it worked for you. I know it works for most people. I've never had this happen. But I've been hearing the same story from more than a few, like 5 or 10 people have emailed me about this, and I've started to wonder if there's something about JESC that is doing this. And the way it works is you flash JESC, it fails on number 1, and then you rerun the flash, and it goes 2, 3, 4, but ESC 1 is dead and never comes back. Quadrophenia asks if they are LESCs. I don't think so. I know for a fact, Quadrophenia, that they are not LESCs in at least a few cases. 661 FPV wants to know why even use JESC if Jazz Maverick exists. 661 FPV, remember, JESC is free to use for the 48K stuff. It's only the bidirectional D-Shot that costs money. And JESC is working for some people where Jazz Maverick doesn't. And JESC has a really nice configurator that makes it easy to apply, whereas Jazz Maverick you got to manually download. So there are reasons. Copter Flights says, I've seen a lot of people talking about this on RC groups. Yeah, okay. It's hard to tell because, like, you could have just screwed up and unplugged the battery or something dumb, and I don't want to blame JESC for something that's not their fault. But I've heard enough about this that I'm starting to wonder. Yeah. Well, I want to just raise the question. There is an issue on the JESC GitHub, but I don't see a response, and there's only one comment. Know Your Joe says, anything new that challenges or succeeds the DJI FPV video setup? Not at this moment, Know Your Joe. Not in my opinion. There are people who are choosing Bite Frost for various reasons, but I don't think raw performance is the reason. JESC configurator never worked for me, says 661 FPV. Well, there you go. See, that's why it's good that there are two out there. Corey Tenendenfield wants to know about an upgrade for the budget build motors. My budget build has DYS Samguk motors. They're still available, and if you can still get them, they're still not a terrible choice. A good workaround would be the Emax Eco motor or the 3B Hobby Trainer motor. Both of those are pretty solid. Andy RC, DJI V2 is not... Here's what I say about DJI. People said, should I buy the DJI goggles, or are they just going to release a new one any minute? And I'm going to wish I hadn't. How often does DJI update the Mavic? It's not every year. It's like about once every 2 years. And I think that's roughly what we could probably expect from the FPV system as well. Let's see here. We got some super chats coming in. We're now 30 minutes into the live stream. I've been ignoring the super chats the whole time. Let's get some super chats out of the way. Todd Speck. Wow, Todd Speck, thank you for $20. Really like learning all your info, JB Authority. Thank you, Todd. David Gilson, thank you for £5. Probably a noob question, but with your V2 AIO flight controller, how do I get RSSI into the OSD? David Gilson, the answer to that depends on your receiver type. Different receivers do it differently. I have a video. This one is the most likely one to be what you need. RSSI in OSD. So, David Gilson, that is the video you should check out. Let's see if I can tag you in the chat and send it to you. No, not David Fall. David Gilson. There we go. If you have an XM Plus, there's a different method where you have to flash firmware to the receiver. Daytona Jim 78, thank you for $3. $3 holla. Wyatt Bakinski, thank you for $2. What is Rapid Fire? Wyatt, Rapid Fire is a receiver module for your FPV goggles. It receives the video signal and translates it into video that your goggles can display. It's a very high performance receiver module that keeps the signal like clean and without scrolling or distortion. There we go. We're caught up on the super chats. That was easy. What's the difference about a Crossfire Nano and a Crossfire Micro receiver, asks Copter Flights. Well, Copter Flights, the Crossfire... No. The Crossfire Micro receiver has... one of the things that stands out about it is that it has PWM output signals, whereas the Micro only has outputs for Crossfire. I guess technically, I suppose you could program the Micro to output. TBS website is getting wrecked because the Tango 2 came out today. Technically, I guess the Micro or the Nano, you could program two of them as... Now I see why he wears a hat all the time. Technically, I suppose you could program the Nano to output... PWM, but the Micro has PWM outputs on the plug. Wait, does it? No, I'm thinking of the next one up. I don't know. Nah, you should just get the Nano. Micro receiver. I think the Micro receiver came out first. Does it not have... This is the one I'm thinking. No, it has two plugs. I see. Yeah, so here we've got channel 1, 2, 3, 4. So those could be PWM outputs, and that's one of the things that stands out about it. But for mini quads, the Nano is the one to get. In fact, I don't really even think there's a point of the Nano diversity, because mini quads, what do you need diversity for? On 250 milliwatts, you can go as far as you could possibly need to on a typical 5 gig FPV system. Props to pair, Corey Tenenfeld. Props to pair with the budget build. The same props that are recommended. They're fine. Any 2400-ish kV motor and any 5x4.5 or 5x4.3 prop, it's going to be okay. Ronnie Renkung wants to know, why did I not get the Tango 2 for review? Ronnie, I'll tell you the truth. It's because I pissed off. I have pissed off TBS multiple times in the past, and they finally got sick of it. That's the truth. Some of the times I pissed off TBS was legitimate, Like, I mean, I'll be the first to admit my own mistakes, although a PR person would tell me I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't make other people's case for them. But like the time that I reviewed the output power on the TBS Unify, and I said that the Unify had low output power, and then they said that can't be true. I sent the Unifies off to a testing lab, and turned out they were right and I was wrong. And my best guess as to what went wrong is there was an adapter I was using that was damaged. And I made a retraction. I apologized, but they were annoyed about that, and they said that I shouldn't have released those results. I should have known better. They were pretty salty about that. The final straw, I think, was when I reviewed the Arum Polar antenna. The Arum Polar antenna was the antenna that they said was this fancy, I don't know, MIMO antenna. And me and Alex Grieve, I thought I was off the hook by partnering with Alex Grieve. Number one, Alex Grieve, I Be Crazy, owns Video Aerial Systems. He is one of the most respected authorities on antennas in all of FPV. And number two, he designs antennas for TBS. So I was like, how could they be mad at me if I go in with this guy on the results? We tested the antenna. We concluded that the marketing around the antenna was just completely wrong. And then the manufacturer of the antenna came back and said, no, whoops, we didn't understand. This is all completely wrong. So I think that was the point where Trappy banned me from the TBS lounge. He didn't say, this is because you panned our product. He said he had another reason he gave. But that was the final straw, and I think I'm just dead to them now. So, no hard feelings. I'll tell you guys, when DJI didn't send me goggles to review, I had to buy them out of pocket. And there was a time when I struggled to buy products for review. And now, thankfully, I have extremely generous patrons. I have a lot of patrons. Every single patron, I am more proud of my patrons than I am of my YouTube subs. Not that I don't love my YouTube subs, but I'm proud of my patrons because every single patron is a person who has spontaneously and willingly decided to pay me a little bit of money just because they felt that I helped them. I really feel like I earned those. A sub, you click the sub button, maybe you never come back, but a patron, I really feel I'm so proud of them. And thankfully, between my patrons, between my YouTube income, between my affiliate links and so on, if I need to buy a $200 product for review, I'll just buy it. I'll call it a business expense. It's not a big deal. And when DJI didn't send me the goggles, I was like kind of proud. I mean, I was like, could it be? I mean, I don't think it could be. I don't want to sound snobby, but they can't not know I exist, right? They can't. That can't be it. So what if they were just like, we can't give him to this guy. He'll tear him apart. I was like, that's right. I kind of took it as a mark of pride. And now TBS hasn't sent me the Tango, and I don't think that it's because I think that they think I won't be fair to it, and they think I'll just tear it down because I don't like them. That's not true. I think you can look at my review of the TBS Fusion and you can see I think it's a very, very fair, very balanced review with both pros and cons. And in fact, every time I go to talk about a TBS product, I'm like, the whole world is watching to see if I'm going to be objective. And I try to be extra objective about TBS products now. But they didn't want to send me one. No hard feelings. I'm going to take it as a mark of pride and go, fine, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to be objective. And that's cool. I'm the bad boy. Team Black Sheep. Who's the black sheep now? Everyone in the world gets a TBS Tango. Bachgrinder gets one. Stingy gets one. Everybody gets one. Bardwell doesn't get one. That makes me the black sheep. Sweet. I'm finally the cool kid. I'm finally the cool kid. Maybe I revealed a little too much there. All right, let's get back to the Q&A. My quad drifts off at an angle, says Dion Poltgater. My quad drifts off at an angle when I fly horizon or angle mode. Dion, you got to calibrate the accelerometer, and then you got to trim the accelerometer. I have a video about accelerometer trim. You can search accelerometer trim on my channel, and you'll find that video. That's probably what you need to do. I'm the black sheep. I need my own logo. I need my black sheep logo. Well, but if they're the black sheeps, what does that make me? The white sheep? I feel like there's connotations of that I don't like. The red sheep? What kind of sheep am I? Anyway. I see a question here. Steve M. Steve M. Oh, I see. Steve says if you lost an ESC when flashing JESC, then you need to flash with the C2 interface. Yikes. Wow, that's old school right there, man. Take it easy, Dion. No need for that language. Kasiba says, for me, this is just two guys that don't like each other. You're not wrong. Trappy, I'm not going to share any private emails on stream, but when I very first did an antenna review in 2017, I did a review of some antennas, including the TBS fucking, what's the TBS antenna? The TBS antenna. And he emailed me and said, hey, no hard feelings. Could you not review any more of our products ever again? I just don't feel like we're in the same place. Turns out he was right. We're not in the same place, and we never have been. It's childish, says Kasiba, but very funny for everybody. Yeah, I try and stay away from it, but like just occasionally I come back from it. Triumph. Thank you, Kasiba. Just blanked on it. The TBS Triumph. Steve Coptitra. Thank you for $5 in the super chat. Joe Graves FPV, thank you for $5. What budget ESC would you recommend? Joe Graves, if we take a look, get ready, patrons in the Discord. If we take a look over at my website, fpvknowitall.com, there is a section on parts. It is, hello. There we go, flight controller, ESC motors, and props. There is a freaking messed up code on my freaking website because this freaking Fusion Builder is effed up. Sorry about that. And over here, lately, SpeedX ESCs have been really cheap. And SpeedX are just really, really good ESCs. I can't understand what world we live in where you can get a SpeedX ES25 for $10. I keep waiting to find out that they actually suck now. But until I find out, SpeedX are damn good and really cheap these days. So pick them up. Milton Smith, thank you for $10. Given the FAA situation, should we invest in DJI goggles or wait? Milton Smith, it's impossible to know how this is going to shake out. It's just impossible to know. I mean, I obviously am moving full stream ahead at the belief that FPV will survive. I'm not going to quit before it's over. So should you buy DJI goggles or wait? I don't know about that. I don't know whether you are going to stick with it like I know that I'm going to stick with it. The 17th floor, DJI did not send you their products because you are drinking and eating live and it sounds like a zoo instead of sounding like advanced technology. Oh, I'm sorry, the 7th floor. Does sipping water on stream offend you? I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not eating anything. What am I eating? Where am I eating? I'm sipping water on stream. When you talk for 2 hours, you have to sip water. Otherwise, your mouth gets really dry. Your mouth gets really dry and you can't talk. So, you know, if my sipping water on stream offends you, bye. I'm gonna see you later. You want some of that sweet, sweet ASMR, Andy? Okay. Hey, everybody. It's time. It's time for FPV ASMR, everybody. Do you guys like my gimbals? You guys like the sound of my gimbals? You gotta... What do you think of my buttons? I am sipping water from a mug. I mentioned earlier on the stream, I stole this mug from the Rotor Riot warehouse because I just like coffee mugs and it's a pretty sexy little design. And I thought as long as I stole it from the warehouse, the least I could do is show it on a stream. You can get this mug at store.rotorriot.com. You'll never see it again, but I thought one live stream and then I'm justified in having stolen it. I won't slurp anymore. That was just one. It is actually iced tea. Okay. Oh, Chris Hugman, they're talking about, you're probably talking about the TBS Tango Freedom TX source code not being released. Is it released? I couldn't find a GitHub repo for the TBS version of OpenTX. Maybe it's out there and I missed it. I assume that what they're going to do is they're going to merge back to OpenTX so fast that it doesn't really matter. And I'm not like a stickler for the GPL. I care about the GPL, but like if they distribute the code for a couple weeks and then they merge it back, I don't care. I don't care about that. Kasiba says, some weeks ago there were rumors about Elmway going out of business and then there was a small mail shared about it not being true. Do you have any new information about that? I don't, Kasiba, and I don't know the answer either. I mean, the people who said that Elmway was going out of business were vendors who had a dealer relationship with Elmway. So presumably they know who their Elmway rep is. I mean, some people said, well, maybe somebody faked an email. But, like, they know who their Elmway rep is. They didn't get an email from some random person saying, hello there, this is Elmway. We are going out of business. Hope you understand. And go, damn. No, they would have validated that information. So, I don't know what happened there with Elmway, and I don't know whether they're going out of business or not. Chris E says, Freedom TX was only for hardware dev purposes. Chris, that is true. As long as you are using the product, the code base internally, then you do not have to publish the source. But as soon as you, with the GPL at least, it's triggered as soon as you distribute a binary. So right now, if the TBS Tango 2 is selling to users with GPL code on it, then there's a requirement that the source be published. Again, I don't care. I assume that I am so grateful to TBS for the work that they've done, and I assume that they're going to merge it back to OpenTX as soon as they can, and that'll all resolve itself. I don't really care. I'm not a stickler for the GPL. I care a lot about blatant violations of the GPL, but I'm not a stickler for the technicalities, especially when good work is being done, which it is. See, no slurping for that one. No slurping. There was a Danish-Chinese accent, says Enough's Enough 318. I hope that was a generic enough accent that no one is specifically offended. Don Aitken, thank you for £2. BN180 GPS, 10 minutes to get a fix. Why? Don Aitken, if your GPS takes 10 minutes to get a fix, the very first time that's normal, but then it should have a battery, and the battery should store the coordinates so it gets a faster fix the next time. If your GPS never gets a fix, the battery may be dead or disconnected. If it always takes 10 minutes to get a fix, I would just replace the GPS. You could try to replace the battery, but usually the tabs are soldered on and you can't really replace it. Patrick FPV, I can't flash my flight controller, but I can connect. Okay, here's what you need to do, Patrick. Pay attention. Before you can flash, you need to see DFU in the upper right-hand corner. Where you normally see the COM port, you need to see DFU. If you don't see DFU up there, you can't flash it. So, how do you get DFU up there? Hold down the bootloader button on the flight controller. While holding it down, plug in USB. Now, you won't see a COM port, and you may not see DFU. If you do see DFU, good, flash. Hold down the bootloader button. Plug in USB. Then, download and run Impulse RC Driver Fixer. Don't use Zadig. Zadig does the same thing as Impulse RC Driver Fixer, but if you use it wrong, you can screw things up. Just run Impulse RC Driver Fixer. At that point, Driver Fixer should find your flight controller and fix the driver, and now you should see DFU. If you don't see DFU, unplug USB. Again, hold down bootloader button, plug in USB. It should work. Those are the steps. In that exact order, do the things. And I know you think you already did it. You're like, no, I tried that. It didn't work. Trust me, I've been through this a lot with a lot of different people. If you do the steps in exactly that order, most of the time it works. MHCP is pointing out the Betaflight 413 has a much faster GPS fix. That's a good point. And I don't know how Betaflight could cause your GPS to take a long time to get a fix, because, like, isn't that between the GPS and the satellites? But apparently there was something going on in earlier versions of Betaflight that made the GPS fix takes longer. So if you are taking a long time to get a fix, Don Aitken, then try updating to Betaflight 413. I'm going to miss some super chats if I don't keep doing my super chats. Let me finish these up. Your name here, thank you for €5. Hi, JB. My 3S Beta FPV 75X always rolls left and back when I reduce throttle and try to descend. Yeah, you need to have air mode on. Air mode on will cause it to hold position better at low throttle. That would be what I would suggest. If air mode is off, turn it on. If it's on and it still does that, that's a tougher question. I'm going to hope that air mode is off and that fixes it. Ellis Goward, thanks for £5. More ASMR, please. I switched to 6S 700 kV 2306. Can I still keep using my 5040 tri-blades? Ellis, 5040 tri-blades are really under-propped for almost every motor today. Like, they're not hurting anything, but you can get more thrust with almost no downside by going to, like, even just like a 5043 or a 5140. So I would go to, and especially on 6S 1700 kV, I feel like you could be going to a more aggressive prop, get more thrust, and not much downside. That's what I would do. Steve Captera, thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name, Steve. Thank you for $5 in the super chat. No question, just thanks and another $5. Thank you, Steve. Cash, thank you for $5. Joshua, I've been in an FPV coma for 3 years and finally fixed a problem I was having thanks to your videos. Thanks for being the know-it-all. Thank you, Cash. Thanks for your donation. I'm glad I could help you solve your problem. Okay. Aniru Ravi, thank you for 100 rupees. My rush tank works only when I flex the board with my hands. Any hope for repair? Here's what I would do. It's probably dead, but here's what you can do. You put it in the oven and reflow it in the oven. I want you to look up on Google oven PCB reflow. Basically, you bake it in the oven to a temperature where the solder flows, and then without moving it, because if you move it, everything will just go off, you let it cool down again. And if there's a cracked joint or something, sometimes that fixes it. It's probably dead, though, on your... Todd Speck, thanks for $2. Can you give a shout-out to Andy RC? All day. Andy RC is amazing. Andy RC. Shout-out. Andy RC in the chat right now. Some people are asking if you can just go to the CLI and type BL or bootloader to get into DFU mode. You can, and that usually works the same as the button, but sometimes the button works and the BL doesn't work. So I always tell people to use the button because the CLI isn't 100% reliable, but you can try typing BL in the CLI and sometimes that works. Ian F. in the Discord asks, why is it that some flight controllers don't work with the DFU button on the configurator? The short version, Ian, is that the software method of putting the flight controller into DFU mode doesn't 100% work on Windows. On macOS, it works like every time. In fact, Drew uses a Mac. He was flashing his flight controller, and I said, don't you have to put it in DFU mode? He said, no, you just hit flash and it does it. I'm like, really? So it's just a Windows driver thing, unfortunately. James Cheryl, thank you for £2. When are you going to be a part of Let's Drone Out? I have been on Let's Drone Out before. I haven't been doing many appearances like on podcasts and stuff lately. I've just been heads down. Did you see how busy I am? Oh my God, you guys. You guys, can I show you this? This is my editorial calendar. I'm trying to be super organized in 2020. This is my editorial calendar. When in here do you think I have time to go on podcasts? Yeah. And I usually schedule, here's the curse too. I scheduled 4 videos a week plus 2 live streams. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday videos, 2 live streams Saturday and Sunday and Monday, and Saturday, my quote unquote day off. But then, like last night, I literally got out of bed at 11 o'clock at night to make this video because I was so worked up and I couldn't sleep. And then I was like, where am I going to put this video? And I couldn't stand to push off any of these other videos. So instead of moving this video down to like the 5th of March, I just put it on my Monday slot. So now I'm making even more videos. It's supposed to organize me and save me time, and I'm just making more videos. Can't help it. Oh well. Ciati FPV says, thanks for costing me $80 since now I have to buy a Taycan frame. The Taycan's a pretty decent frame, Ciati. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I got to say, I did my Cinewhoop review, and I tried to be fair and objective like I always do. If I were to pick one to buy for myself today, I would build the Shendrone Squirt. Even though the Shendrone Squirt did not do the best in that testing, especially at the price Rotor Riot wants for it, I would build my own. The fact that so many pros use the Shendrone Squirt and that Andy Shen is such a pro, I just would have to pick that one. Anyway. Dion Pointer, already your quad is drifting in auto level mode. Dion, please don't spam the chat though, okay, man? I'm going to answer your question, but please don't spam the chat. Already calibrated the accelerometer and set the deadband. Yeah, but you may have to trim the accelerometer in addition to calibrating it. Johann Frederick Svensson says, I had a prop strike on a battery. It still holds charge and appeals normal, but it has that metallic odor. Nope. Do not. It's got to go. Johann, it's got to go, my man. When you smell that smell, the fruity metallic smell, that means that the battery is punctured. You're smelling the electrolyte. Get rid of it. It is not safe to use anymore. It is a huge, huge risk. Once it's punctured, the thing is, somewhere out there, someone's going to go, that's a bunch of bullshit. I just put some tape on it. It was fine for 27 years. I mean, you can play Russian roulette and not shoot yourself in the head. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. Once a battery is punctured, it's a hazard. It's not worth the money to keep using it. You got to get rid of it, my friend. I'm sorry. Turf Smurf says, where can we pick up a Squirt frame? I mean, I assume it's sold a lot of different places, but Shendrones is Andy Shen's site. He has a store. Here we go. Store. Shendrones.com. Frames. And here is the Squirt V2.1. Geez, $38. There you go. So you can pick that up for $38 at Shendrones.com. Soldier Ace wants to know, if my flight controller freezes a lot in beta flight, does that mean it's defective? It could mean that your USB cable or your USB port's defective. Ciati says the Squirt's just too fat. Wow. Well, there you go. Can I recommend an FPV monitor? I'm afraid I can't. There are some out there, but I just don't use them. I use Goggles for everything. I mean, I'm sure there are good ones out there. I would probably want like a 7-inch. You'd want it to be super bright because so you could use it in the daylight. Do whoop batteries blow up too? Asks Lead Sled 01. Yes, they do, but when they do, it's much less dramatic because they're so small. So I'm a little more cavalier with whoop batteries. Is BT 2.0 connector okay for the 2S battery on the Tiny Hawk 2? Jason W., I mean, BT 2.0 is going to be better than PH 2.0, and the more amps you're pulling, the more it matters. If you're only pulling 2 or 3 amps, there's not actually a noticeable difference between them. But if you're pulling 5 amps or more, let's say, there's a big difference. So the more amps you're pulling, and on a 2S Tiny Hawk 2, yeah, I mean, by the time you're up to a quad as big as the Tiny Hawk 2, it's worth asking whether you should just go to XT30, though. The big reason you don't go to an XT30 on a little tiny whoop, a 65 millimeter, is that it's like an extra gram, maybe gram and a half. I can't remember the number. The XT30 is just that much heavier, and it does matter. But for a Tiny Hawk, I feel like an XT30 might even be the way to go. Winter Blue wants to know if I want to do a video on how to build a battery discharger. Well, I kind of started to. I gotta remember. Yeah, so I actually made this video. I made part 1, and then after I made part 1, I got the West Mountain battery tester, and I stopped. Here, Winter Blue, I got it for you. I stopped working on this load bank, so then I just moved on with my life, and I never came back to it. But you can check that out. It could get you started. Rstang 50, Mode 4 for an FPS gamer. Your thoughts? No, 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 no. Don't use Mode 4. I know it seems like a good idea. It is a bad idea. Here's the analogy that I like to use. If you were starting to learn to play guitar and you said, I think I'm going to learn to play guitar upside down and left-handed. That's how Jimi Hendrix played. It should be good for me. No. Learn Mode 2 just like everybody else. It will be awkward for you for like 2 hours, and then you'll be fine. I play video games. I fly quads. I have zero problem going back and forth. My brain just knows when I'm holding an Xbox controller, this is how it works. When I'm flying a quad, this is how it works. It is not a problem. It'll be awkward for you at first, and you'll think, oh, I should just do Mode 4. Don't. It'll just make a ton of problems for you down the line. It is not worth it. Mode 2. Robin H. wants to know what flight controller I would recommend. Robin, I'm so glad you asked that. Get ready. Because I have a website, fpvknowitall.com, where I have all of my product recommendations, including a whole section on flight controllers, ESCs, motors, and props. And this stupid thing, because my stupid website Fusion Builder is messing up my code. Sorry about that. There's a whole section on flight controllers here. And you can pick one from those. Those are the ones I recommend. Did he string it normal in Gauge FPV, Jimi Hendrix? He played a right-handed guitar left-handed. And, oh, I see. It was strung normal so that when he flipped it over left-handed, it was upside down. That's my point. The bass strings were on the bottom and the treble strings were on the top, right? He just flipped it over. No one would recommend that, though. Ben Brown, thank you for £5 in the super chat. What's the best way to clean mud out of motors? Mine are locked solid after a failsafe while testing Spectrum receiver range. Well, I guess you tested the range. Ben, if there's a ton of mud in the motors, what I would do is first just turn the motors, let it dry. Then once it's dry, turn the motors by hand and just kind of grind the mud out. And then once you get the motor to spin, use turtle mode and just go, and then eventually it'll all come out and you'll be fine. That's what I would do. You can blow it out with some compressed air. Some people prefer to do that. I see someone in the chat suggesting alcohol. The problem with alcohol is it will also take the oil out of your bearings, and that's not a great idea. In my opinion, that's not what I would recommend. Happy Flying FPV says, I know this Fusion Builder problem. Happy Flying, please email me, joshuabardwell@gmail.com. My website it's hosted by WordPress, and there's this thing that we use to build the site called Fusion Builder, and it has started inserting this stupid flippin' tag, and I cannot fix it, and every time I edit the page, it inserts this stupid tag, and it's a freaking load of crap, and if you know how to fix it, I will be so grateful. Please contact me if you know what's causing that and how to fix it. The problem is I Google this tag. I'm like, okay, let's figure out what this bug is. And the problem is there are 8,000 websites that have this tag in the HTML. So it's impossible to find a solution for when this tag appears where you don't want it. So yeah, email me. Okay. Take the bell off and use an old toothbrush and water. Yeah, you can do that. Gorilla FPV, if you want to take the bells off, you can clean them out. But I always try and do it without disassembling the motor if I can possibly avoid it. Happy Flying FPV, I'm not joking. Email me, please. joshuabardwell@gmail.com. Protentigo wants to know if EULBT in general has lower range than FCC. That's a good question. I am not sure that it has. I know it doesn't have telemetry. There are power restrictions for EU, but I'm not sure under what conditions they kick in. So I couldn't say about that. That's a good question. Nils Dellin says, I have the Eachine trash can and my ESC is broken. Can I replace just one ESC or do I have to replace the whole flight controller? Nils, unfortunately on the trash can, the ESCs are built into the flight controller. It's all one thing. So I'm afraid you're going to be replacing the whole flight controller. What are my thoughts on the Tiny Hawk 2? Have I flown with it? Asks Lil K. Lil K, I have flown the Tiny Hawk 2. I have not released a review of it because I'm just so busy with other topics that it never like rose to the threshold of, oh, I got to make a video about this. I love the original Tiny Hawk. It's not perfect, but it's a really good quad for the right person. The Tiny Hawk 2, to me, they improved some things about it, but overall, to me, it feels heavier. Like, I haven't put it on a scale. I think it's heavier, though. It feels underpowered on 1S compared to the Tiny Hawk 1. And compared to something like a Meteor 65 or a Mobula 6, which are so much faster and more nimble. So then you put the Tiny Hawk 2 on 2S, and it feels pretty good. But there's also some other 2S quads that are really good. And so I'm not really sure where the Tiny Hawk 2 fits. And so, yeah, that's my sort of mini review of the Tiny Hawk 2. Well, that's not much difference, Andy. Andy RC points out the original is 28 grams. The Tiny Hawk 2 is 31 grams. 20, 30. That's 4 grams. So that's 10%-ish of weight. That's not nothing. I don't know what to tell you. Just maybe I have been flying like these really powerful, nice little 1S 65mm whoops too much. Maybe if I went back and flew the Tiny Hawk 1, I'd go, oh, this kind of feels a little underpowered too. It's like, where is the right place? Andy RC, weigh in, please. Weigh in, please. Where is the right place to fly the Tiny Hawk 2? It's not an ultra tight course. Like if you're doing a really tight Tiny Whoop course, any of the Tiny Hawks are too big and too heavy to really be ideal. So then you go outdoors. Outdoors, you kind of would almost rather have like a toothpick, a 3-inch toothpick, wouldn't you? So it's like, where's the perfect place to fly a Tiny Hawk 2? I'm not sure what it is. Andy RC points out the Tiny Hawk 2 has higher kV motors, which means shorter flight times. Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too, Andy. I didn't feel like the Tiny Hawk 2 was like really powerful on 1S, but it did have shorter flight times compared to like a much lighter one, like a 22 grams Meteor 65 or something. Wasn't the recent Knoxville whoop race outdoors? Asks Rab FPV. Rab, you would know, Rab. You were there. Rab won that race. Rab is if this is the same Rab FPV, Rab's a hell of a fast whoop racer. It was outdoor, but it was a pretty tight course. It was out on the patio of the restaurant. So although it was outdoors, it was a very tight and constrained environment. When I say outdoors, I mean an outdoor environment when you can kind of open the quad up a little bit. You take a 1S Tiny Whoop outdoors, and even if you hit full throttle, it's just not going fast enough to really make the environment feel small, right? Whereas you get up to 2S or even 3S on a toothpick, and the environment feels about the right size for how fast the quad is going. Sorry about that, guys. Engage FPV says, I smoked a motor yesterday. It had some burning going on. The inside of the bell is gummed up and nasty as the bell trashed also. Engage, usually when you smoke a motor, you kill the windings, but you don't kill... You sometimes kill the bearing, but not always. Usually the bell is okay. If the bell is gummed up and nasty, maybe there was some arcing to the bell, and maybe the bell does have some damage. Oftentimes the bell will be okay, though. It's Blunty asks, going back to the question about getting dirt out of the motors, when you say grind the dirt out of the motors, doesn't that damage them? I got sand in my motors yesterday, not looking forward to removing the bells. It's Blunty. I could just tell you what I do, man. If I'm flying, like when I fly on the West Coast, or well, any coast really. I'm thinking of San Diego. I flew, but also if there are some places I've flown like near the coast in Georgia or South Carolina. Anytime you're near the coast, you go from dirt to kind of sand, and if it gets in the motors, it's just really like grindy, and you can't really fly it easily. I'm not going to take the bell off. I'm going to get back in the air and I'm going to fly again. So if I crash and I get some dirt in the motors, I'm just going to pick it up and go. And then eventually it's smooth again and just go. Like, what are you going to do? Be like, I guess I'm done for the day. No. So does it, like, if it is metallic, then it's magnetic and it'll stick to the magnets and then you're not getting it off. But even if it's like mild, like sand is mildly abrasive. But I just, you got to get back in the air and you got to get flying again. You're not going to just pack it in for the day. So, yeah, go for it. Kasiba says range is the same with FCC and LBT. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Compressed air. Yeah, Boyd, good point. The people who fly in sandy environments oftentimes will have a can of compressed air, and that will blow the sand out in a way that's less damaging than if you grind it out. Personally, I always just grind it out. Berker Kanatar, I have built a full autonomous quad which has 17-inch props. I want to control and monitor it over the internet using a 4G GSM module. What do you suggest? I don't suggest anything. That is completely out of my wheelhouse. It sounds pretty cool, but you definitely need to make sure that you have full control of it, and that if it loses that GSM signal, that it will be able to return to home or land or whatever it's going to do. Rab FPV asks, when will you review the Foxeer Wildfire? Very curious if it beats Rapid Fire. Well, I'll spoil the ending for you, Rab. It doesn't beat Rapid Fire. Okay, now, moving on. I will be testing the Wildfire. So I have it on my calendar. I have it on my calendar for this week, but I'm not sure. I need to go to like a parking garage or something in order to test it, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to do that in time to get it out for this week. So it might have to be next week. It'll just depend. Okay. When will we see more about the JBF7? Asks Martin Leicher. Do you guys know what Martin's talking about? Hold on, I'll show you. I teased this on my Instagram. Since you brought it up, Martin. Since you brought it up. Where is it? Where's the photo? Oh man, I post a lot. There we go. Here is a post I made to my, it's a preview, a teaser of the new JBF7. I don't want to reveal too much information because it's not ready yet, but I did want to, I got the very first prototype in hand and I wanted to like just show it off a little bit. Obviously it won't be coming out till after Chinese New Year. We have not pulled the trigger on full manufacturing yet. So it's still going to be a couple months, but very, very excited to finally be able to start showing you guys this. Yep, Jesse T, nice open layout. My goal was to make those pads as big as possible for people who struggle a little bit with soldering and to make the layout as simple and flexible as possible. Darij a kayak. Sorry, Darij. I'm not sure how to say your name, my friend. The price, we're not ready to announce a price yet, but suffice it to say, I have never been about gouging people. So the price will be in line with other flight controllers on the market with similar features or maybe a little cheaper. Is F4 going to be phased out in favor of F7 over time? Yeah, eventually, Cash. I would say that F4 is only just starting to feel the pinch, and probably there'll be 2 or 3 more Betaflight versions that support F4, at least. That's just a guess. But I, for one, will be glad to see F4 go away because of the BS with UARTs and inversion. I'm very looking forward to that kind of stuff leaving us behind. General Zorg, thank you for £5 in the super chat. Can I use 5S or 6S lipos on my pre-built Drib motored Rotoride HD1? Well, General Zorg, the Drib motors are 2650 kV. That is pretty high kV for 5S and 6S. I'm not going to say you can't do it. I'm just going to say your batteries might not like it, and you may even get desyncs. Those motors are really like a 2300 kV motor. You could run it on 5S and you'd be all right. 6S maybe even. 2500 kV, it is done, but you pop ESCs a lot more often. By the time you're up to 2650 kV, like those Drib motors, running them on 6S is going to be challenging, and it's not, I probably don't recommend it. Anirudh Ravi, thank you for 200 rupees. What do you think about other countries mimicking regulations enforced by the FAA? Like in India now, they require you to register drones regardless of weight. I mean, what can you do, man? What can you do? Well, I don't know. Rob J77, thank you for $2. Thanks for your help. I'm glad I could help you, Rob. Lead Sled 01, is there a module that can fit the Sky Zone goggles? Lead Sled, the Sky Zone goggles have an adapter you could sort of stick onto the side that lets you use a Fat Shark module. It's pretty unwieldy. I actually don't have one, but we can find a picture of it somewhere, I'm sure. I know Stu released one. So let's take a look. Rapid fire on Sky Zones. Hi, Stu. Show me the money, Stu. Where's the close up? There we go. I'm sure he won't mind me showing his video on my stream, right? No, give me a closer picture, Stu. Here it is. So it's this thing that slaps onto the side of your rapid fire or your Sky Zones. I guess it's not the end of the world. It's not really, I mean, if you already own Sky Zones, then I guess it works, but it's kind of unwieldy, right? That doesn't, like your girlfriend's not going to be like, oh yeah, what's that thing you've got on the side of your FPV goggles? Oh baby. Your girlfriends aren't into your FPV goggles? Anyway. So yeah, you can do it. It's not a dock, it's a barnacle, says License to Drive. Yeah, that's a good point. Ciati says, 2400 kV on 5S is madness. ESC blew up after 2 batteries. Yes, that's what happens. It will go, but then your ESC will blow up. Ben Brown, thanks for $5. Oh, that was the motors and mud one, so I guess I'm caught up. No, I missed Marcelino Romero. How did I miss you, dude? Oh, wow, I missed a few. Apologies to guys I missed. Marcelino Romero, thank you for 2,500 CLP. I don't know what a CLP is off the top of my head, but I appreciate getting 2,500 of them. How do I tell if my ESC 4-in-1 is broken? It doesn't have continuity, and BLK32 doesn't have bad frames, but the motors won't spin. Try a different flight controller, CME-SC. I mean, that's basically it, dude. If the motors won't spin, I mean, does it make the beeps? Does it go, here's what you need to know, Marcelino. Does the ESC go doo-doo-doot? That should happen anytime the ESC gets power and the FETs are working. If it doesn't even go doo-doo-doot, when you got to have motors connected to it. But if it doesn't even go doo-doo-doot, it's dead. It's just dead. I'm sorry. Pickle Rick, FPV. Pickle Rick! Thank you for $2. Do you need the ground station for Bite Frost? Yeah, Bite Frost ground station is the receiver. New Brian 07, thank you for $20. Love you, man. Thank you, New Brian, for your generous donation. Chris Whitehead, thanks for £1. £1. Oliver W, thanks for £5. I built a toothpick quad with a Crazy Bee F3 flight controller. I have a Jumper T16 Pro. When I get to half throttle with props on, it cuts out. What can I do? Oliver, that's a tough one. I'd want to know why it's cutting out. So first of all, do you lose video? Are you just literally losing power, or does it disarm itself? If it's disarming itself, Oliver, I would want to turn on the warning OSD element in the OSD tab, and when it disarms, the warning element should show something. Like it should tell you something like RX loss or runaway. That will tell you why it shut down. So I'd want to know that arming code, Oliver, and that would help tell me what was going on. Aaron Randall, thank you for $5. Just got my Crossfire Lite and Jumper T16 Pro. Thank you for your videos. I believe I have 3 quads all set up, ready to rock. Well, after this weekend, you won't. You'll have broken quads, but that's life. Chris Smith is having a problem with his Crazy Bee F3 binding. It enters bind mode, but it never binds. Chris, the exact answer to that is going to depend on what transmitter you've got and what receiver protocol is configured inside the Crazy Bee flight controller. The good news is that the Crazy Bee flight controllers, I don't know about the FR target specifically, I think that's a Free Sky, they have an SPI-based receiver and they can change protocol just by changing a setting in Betaflight. So it may be that you have like D8 selected when you need D16 or vice versa. That's possible. Jestar FPV asks, does the Emax Tiny Hawk Ready to Fly transmitter bind to other quads? Yes, it does. Andy RC, thank you for answering that one as well. The Emax Tiny Hawk Ready to Fly transmitter is D8 mode, and it will bind to any D8 mode quad, but it can only bind to one at a time. Zach Cagley, the people in the Discord are discussing how to keep your motors clean. Always a good idea to have somewhere to land if it's a sandy environment. Some people use a sandy environment as a chance to do hand launches and hand catches. That is incredibly risky. I don't think it's a good idea. Other people land on top of their car, in the bed of their truck. Personally, I wouldn't want to scratch up the paint, but maybe in the bed of a truck. Other people will bring like a blanket or something to land on and take off from. Not a bad idea. David Ghostand is reminding me I still missed some super chats. Where now? Let me see here. Pickle Rick, Chris Whitehead, Oliver W. Now we're back to James Sherrill, who's asking, when are you going to be part of Let's Drone Out? Oh, was there more copies of that? Oh, there was. People are asking that question more than once. So I recognized the question, then I was like, oh, I guess I'm caught up. James Sherrill, $2, £2. When am I going to be a part of Let's Drone Out? I believe I answered that earlier in the stream. Flybat FPV, thank you for $5. I fly 6S 2306, 1750 kV. What would be the advantage or disadvantage of going to 2207? Honestly, Flybat FPV, I think the differences between 2207 and 2306 for most people are going to be very subtle and maybe even not noticeable. If you're happy with your 2306 motors, I don't suggest you spend the money on a new set of 2207s. If your 2306s are all banged up and you're ready to get a new set of motors anyway, maybe try 2207s. In general, a shorter, wider motor like a 2306 is going to have a little more torque down low and a little more linearity in the throttle curve, whereas a taller, narrower motor like a 2207 is going to have a little bit less linearity. As you get to high throttle, it'll spool up a little bit faster, and it's going to have more top-end RPM. Those are very, very broad generalizations, but there is a little bit of truth to them. So, personally, I like 2207 better than 2306. But if you gave me two identical quads and asked me to tell the difference, I might not be able to, depending on various things. David Ghostin, thank you for $2. Can a F7 flight controller handle bidirectional D-shot with 8 ESCs and motors? That's a very good question, David. We know that an F7 can do 8K D-shot 600 on 4 motors, but 8 motors, first of all, you're going to need a flight controller that can do 8 D-shot outputs, which many of them can't. But if you assume that, I actually think that's a very valid question. You might want to go 4K D-shot 300 just to keep the utilization down. The bottom line is you're going to go to the CLI and type tasks, and in the CLI, you're going to see what the frequency of the PID loop is. And if it's like very, very close to 8K, then you're probably fine. Okay, now we're really caught up. Aaron Randall just got my... Oh, no, I already read that one. Okay, now we really are caught up on the Super Chats. Fantastic. Anonix says V-Fly buzzers can take up to 1.5 hours to charge, apparently. Do you have a special charging rig? No, Anonix. The thing is, they will take 1.5 hours to charge, but, like... You just fly the quad, and while you're flying, it's charging. And after 20 packs, it's charged up, and then it's just charged up. That's what I would say. No, I don't have a special charging rig. (507RC). I agree with you that Crossfire is the best, most reliable. Sorry about that, guys. Most reliable control link available today. I would love for there to be an alternative, but there isn't anything as good as Crossfire. Just because I like competition, but I will say that Vanover has switched from Crossfire to Futaba, and he runs the Futaba 2.4 gigahertz receivers. And I was like, how could you give up that range? And he's like, Futaba has amazing range. And I guess if anybody could squeeze amazing range out of 2.4 gigahertz, it's Futaba. But he actually, so I guess that's the competition. I don't know. I see people adding Botgrinder. Is he actually here? Botgrinder's here. Why, Botgrinder, you should be a mod, dude. Botgrinder's a mod now. I always make people mods so their name shows up in blue. Botgrinder, I'm sorry I outed you, man. I told the stream earlier that you were the one who let me look at your TBS Tango 2. Beforehand. It's not true. I just had to throw somebody under the bus, and it was you. I'm sorry, man. Don't abuse your power, Botgrinder. Don't abuse your power. Botgrinder's going to start kicking people out of the... See, I knew you'd have a sense of humor about it. Oh... Ian F. says, what about a LoRa-based 2.4 gigahertz with 2 watts? That would be amazing, Ian. For those who don't know, LoRa, L-O-R-A, long range, LoRa is the kind of chip that is used in Crossfire. It is not something that TBS invented. It is an off-the-shelf radio chip that they integrated. That's not to take anything away from the work that they did, which it was substantial. But they integrated that chip. But that chip it operates at 900 megahertz, but it could operate at 2.4 gigahertz. So in other words, someone could invent a 2.4 gigahertz version of Crossfire. Now, because it's at 2.4 gigahertz, it could have reduced range because it's a higher frequency. But at 2.4 gigahertz, there's way more bandwidth than at 900 megahertz. So you could take advantage of that additional bandwidth to actually counterbalance that out. And the real kicker is 2.4 gig antennas are much smaller and easier to deal with than 900 meg antennas. Ian F is telling me FlySky is coming out with a 2.4 gigahertz based LoRa module soon. That would be exciting. Here's the thing, though. The thing about Crossfire that's really good is not just the range and reliability of the link, but also the entire ecosystem is so seamless. The ability to do over-the-air firmware updates. The firmware is generally pretty reliable. The ability to adjust your channel output mapping. There's so much. Like, even if FreeSky R9 were exactly the same like performance as Crossfire, Crossfire still has advantages in other things that they've done. And so if FlySky comes out with a 2.4 gig long-range module, that's exciting, but they have a lot of work to do to dethrone Crossfire in terms of just the whole ecosystem. So Focus for Life. Oh no, bye man. Focus for Life says my streams are like a broken record. Okay, no problem. I'll see you later. I just talk about what people want to talk about. You guys are a broken record. Joshua Lefto, do you have any suggestions for the best 20 by 20 stack? Aaron Ciotti has suggestions for the best 20 by 20 stack. He is very, very knowledgeable about micros, and I'll bet he has one. Give him a second. He'll come up with it. Calabrese 221 purchased 4 race day quads, 2207.5, 2450 kV motors. One of them caught fire, and I can't buy a replacement. All right, well, if it caught fire and it's not your fault, Calabrese, definitely give RDQ a chance to send you a replacement. I'm sure they'll want to know about that. You can mix KVs, and it's not a problem. It doesn't give the best performance, but if they're close, it'll be okay. Do I use a Torval backpack? I do. Torval is my daily driver. Soldier Ace wants to know, in case I buy the T16 or the TX16, what receiver should I get? Soldier Ace, my go-to receiver is still the FreeSky RXSR. Jumper has a receiver coming out like the R1 or something. It's actually already out. It could be good. I haven't tested it, but my go-to is still the RXSR. Kosiba says, Kosiba in the Discord says, tell me one really good product of FlySky that had no big issues. That's the thing. Anybody can make a long-range link, but TBS really made it good. Let's see here. Gen C wants to know best KV for 4S or 6S Cinewhoop motor size, ESC amps. Gen C, the ESC amps is easy to answer because all these Cinewhoops are coming with 60 amp, 50 amp, 45 amp ESCs, and the motors never even get close to that. So, like, I would say probably the minimum would be like 35 amps, but really, who cares? For motor size, it seems like 1408 or 1507 are the go-to. As far as KV, that's a tougher one. The 4S ones that I reviewed had between about like 3,800 and 4,000 KV. For 6S, I'm not sure what the KV would be. It seems to me like you would probably want a lower KV motor for a Cinewhoop because you don't need like raw speed or freestyle thrust. You'd want longer flight times. Patrick FPV is trying the Impulse RC driver fixer, but you're getting error 99 during air driver installation. Dude, I'm so sorry, Patrick. Error 99 is some Windows thing that's going on. I can't help you with that. I am not a Windows expert. I'm a Windows user. So like if Windows gives me some weird error, I have no idea what on your computer might be causing that. So unfortunately, this is not a Betaflight issue. This is a Windows issue, and it's just beyond me. I'm sorry, man. You have to install the driver, obviously. The driver fixer won't work if you haven't installed the driver. Daniel Matson, will the T16 bind to a radio link receiver? I don't think that it supports radio link, Daniel Matson. Can't you do current limiting with 32-bit ESCs anyway? Asked Graham Stewart. Graham Stewart, many 32-bit ESCs nowadays do not have the current sense shunt resistor on the ESC. They have one master shunt resistor for the whole ESC, and that means they can't do current limiting. It just doesn't. BL Heli supports that, but many ESCs do not. Victor has a 73mm IPD and is looking for goggles. Dude, I don't know. I think does the Fat Shark HDO2 go out to 73mm? There are very few goggles that go that wide. Let's see here. .74. So the Fat Shark page says they go to 74mm. I would assume the Orca is similar. And we'll go to Oscar's page. What the hell? He'll probably have the IPD. 74mm. So both the Orca and the Fat Shark HDO2 say they can handle your IPD, and of course they're very good. They're very good goggles. Darij, if you got to ask, what do I get when I join your Patreon? My opinion, I mean, obviously, Ciati can decide for himself, but my opinion, join people's Patreon if you feel like you want to support them and if you feel like they've earned your support. And then if they give you bonus things like giveaways, so much the better. But personally, like, I don't want people coming to me and saying, if I join your, what are you going to do to earn my patronage? I'm like, well, I already did it. If that wasn't good enough, no hard feelings. Like, don't join my Patreon because you want giveaways. I do giveaways. I'm glad to give back. But if you're going to be like, what are you giving away this month? Am I still going to be your patron? Let's not do that. Just go. Or don't. Let's see here. Kasiba, Nirvana was built by FlySky with this help of Underground FPV. Kasiba, Underground FPV helped with the mechanical design and the software development, but FlySky was the manufacturer of the Nirvana. That's my understanding. Darij, no problem. I'm sorry, I don't mean to call you out. That's just a sensitive spot for me. You don't have to apologize. I know you didn't mean it that way. Sorry. I shouldn't call people out on stream. It's never as bad as it sounds. What are capacitors and why should I use one? Asks Harrison Grant. Harrison Grant, capacitors remove high frequency voltage spikes from signals that can damage equipment and that can make your video noisier. That's the short version. You can think of capacitors kind of like the suspension in a car. This is a terrible analogy. I apologize, electrical engineers. But if you think about the suspension in a car, the wheel is going along the road and the wheel hits a bump in the road. And if there was no suspension, the whole car would go. But with the capacitor, the wheel goes and the body of the car doesn't, and it kind of soaks it up. And that's kind of what a capacitor does for electricity. Does an Acrobrat do just as good of a job as a Cinedrone? Asks Marcos Huerta. Marcos, that's a very, very good question. Umagod has been posting some photos or some video to his Instagram of a professional shoot he was on. Hello. Let's look at that for a minute. Tommy Tibahia, the creator of the Acrobrat, he's been I don't know where he is. He's been doing this professional shoot. And these are the kind of things that people think about Cinewhoops being used for. right? Now, did he do this with a Cinewhoop, or did he do this with an Acrobat? I would guess he did this with an Acrobat. Oh, you guys can't hear it.
All right, here we go, guys. Fingers on triggers. Ready. And action. Roger's dropping. 3, 2, 1.
That's pretty hot, huh? That's pretty hot, huh? That's pretty exciting, huh? How'd you like to have that job? Now, for a shoot like that, where you're working with motorcycle riders wearing helmets and protective gear, there's no question in my mind that an Acrobat is fine. Nobody's going to be concerned about open props, especially with a professional pilot who can probably be trusted not to hit the riders. But if you do hit the riders, they got leathers on. They're not the most dangerous thing on the set. Compare that to a shoot like you see in some of Nurk's show reels, where he's doing a commercial for a bar or a library. You're flying indoors, you're flying in close proximity to actors, and the actors are not wearing protective gear. To me, that's the biggest difference with a Cinewhoop versus an Acrobat. A Cinewhoop is going to compromise agility, but you're going to get increased flight time, and most importantly, you've got those ducts guarding the props so that if you tap the wall, you're not going to damage the wall and you're not going to immediately crash. And if, God forbid, you tap an actor, a lot of times Cinewhoop footage is in very close proximity to an actor. The bartender reaches out and pours a beer, and then you, as he takes the beer away, you fly past him or something. I don't know, I'm making this up. And in those situations, everybody is going to feel better if you don't have an open prop quad. To me, that's the big difference between an Acrobat and a Cinewhoop. MC's Creation says that was a 5-inch. Oh yeah, good point. That was a 5-inch. Yeah, fair enough. I just see Tommy and I think Acrobat all the time, but I guess Tommy sometimes flies 5-inch. Anyway. Soldier Ace wants to know, is it okay if I solder my capacitor directly to the XT60 connector? Yes, the closer the capacitor is to the ESC, the better. But having it on the XT60 is better than nowhere. License to Drive says, is there any Cinewhoop type footage in any films? Yes, yet. Not in any like major motion pictures that I know of. Definitely there's footage from large camera drones, but not that I know of. I think it would be exciting, but no. There definitely is lots of Cinewhoop footage being, maybe not lots, but the place I think you see it most is like in commercials. That's where I think it's being used the most these days. Ducky RC, thank you for $10. Ducky, I'm going to give you a shout out since you super chatted me $10. Ducky says I should print this frame in Nylon X filament. This is the Exorcist Racing quadcopter frame. I have complained about 3D printed quadcopter frames in the past and said that they're just not, especially for 3 inches and up, maybe for like 65 millimeters, that the strength to weight ratio is no good. Well, the page is taking forever to load. Let's give it a minute. Let's see if this is the exception, but I'm skeptical. Ducted Acrobat coming soon. Stan FPV sent me a set of his ducts to test, says Ciotti. Yeah, there's no reason you can't put ducts on an Acrobat and kind of get similar performance. Siler FPV says, have you thought about what your arming sequence will be on the Tango? I have a confession, you guys. I haven't been doing two-stage arming anymore. Actually, that's not quite true. I strongly feel that if you have an arming switch, it's very important to have protection to prevent accidentally flipping the switch and arming the quad. So in the past, what I've done is I've used two-stage arming with a momentary switch, and you hold the momentary switch and you flip the other. There's two problems with that. The first problem is when you hand somebody else your transmitter to fly your quad, and they say, hey, what's the arm switch? And you go, well, actually, and then you freaking read them the freaking Code of Hammurabi. You have to hold the thing and then flip the thing. No. You flip the thing and then you hold the thing. It's terrible. So the other problem is that when I switched to the Jumper T16, I just was too lazy to set up the 2-stage arming on all my new models. Here's what I have been doing, though. The quad will not arm if the throttle is raised. So I'm just using the throttle as my 2-stage arming. So when I don't have a transmitter nearby. When I disarm, I raise the throttle. And then once the throttle's raised, you can't arm. And then when I'm ready to fly, I lower the throttle. And then it'll arm. And that's what I'm using. It's working for me so far. If you were on the Tango 2, you could easily use one of the momentary switches, the same as I had set up for so many years on my X9D. It'll be easy. Here's this Exorcist frame that Ducky RC paid $10 to get us to look at. I just don't buy it, dude. I don't buy it. I mean, it isn't going to be as strong as a carbon frame, and it's going to be heavier. How could that not be true? I think it's going to have a lot of flex. I just am so skeptical. What's the weight? What's the weight? Show me the weight. Show me the weight. The weight isn't here. Yeah. I mean, it's a cool design. I have so much respect for you as a like a 3D designer to have done this. I really do. This is a hell of a cool design. It's obviously based on the Diatone. The Diatone, is that the name of it? The Exorcist? You have a lot of skill, and it's cool that you can make this. But it just, I'm sure, like, tell me the answer, dude. Tell me the answer, Jimmy. What does it weigh? Just the bare frame. And how does it fly compared to just, I mean, how is it not? Anyway, I've been over this before. It's very cool. I'm just not sold. Woods FPV says, play the flight vid. Okay, I will play it. I don't doubt that it flies. The thing is, anybody can make a flight video. But the real question is, okay, we got audio too. Let me go to YouTube. I mean, the real question is, how does it crash? I'm not sure what we can tell. I mean, I'm not sure what you can tell from a flight video like this. Anyway, I think it's a good, here's what I'm going to say. I think it's a fine solution for some people. If you care a lot about being able to print your own frames, then there are frames that will get the job done. But carbon fiber is just the right material for building frames, certainly for mass producing them. 3D filament's getting better. Yoel Adamus, you're correct. I mean, I go back to Andy Shen's attempts to, did Andy ever pull off the Mishiru? I always go back and check his build log. This is a little bit dated, but he was having a lot of trouble with resonation, with resonance and so forth. This is a little bit dated though. Maybe we can do better today. Maybe 3D printed frames have finally come of age. I agree, S. Grace. It did look like it was tuned okay. It did look like it was tuned okay. I saw a question asking, the bind button fell off of my bind and fly. What can I do about it? You can manually bridge the pads that the button used to bridge using solder, wire, or tweezers, and it will work. And if the pad's lifted, though, you're done. Oh, you guys. Ducky RC gave another $10 and said, can I send you a frame in Nylon X? The problem is, I mean, sending it to me, it's a free frame. Yay. But then I have to build it. You know. So I appreciate it. If you send me one, I'll look at it. How about that? That's the best I can promise. Maybe if you send me one, I will look at it and think about it. Can I remind you? This is my editorial calendar right now. So, obviously, if you care enough to give $20 in super chats, I'll at least look at it. Okay, you can send it to me. What's the effect of undervolting? Asks Johann Frederick Svensson. I'm building a 7-inch hoping to make something that can carry a slightly bigger battery for a longer time. 2508, 1275 kV motors on 4S. Johann, if you undervolt the motors, by which you mean use a lower voltage than the kV is really intended for, you just get slower RPMs and generally longer flight times, but less power. I've run 4S on 1700 kV motors, and it was surprisingly flyable. On full throttle, you definitely didn't get like a knock you in the back of your seat, but it was surprisingly flyable, and flight times were 6 minutes. So, yeah. If you go to a lower voltage battery, the question I always have, though, is, would you be better off using a higher voltage battery with like a throttle limit? I'm not sure about the answer. I haven't done enough side-by-side to really know for sure. Somebody's trying to get up Andy RC's rear about his review of the Eachine EV300D. Kebab's EV300D had latency. Painless 360's EV300D had latency. Andy didn't mention the latency, and someone's saying, why didn't you tell us about this? And Andy's answer is, mine didn't have latency. Yeah. No need to accuse Andy of anything sneaky. Eachine makes generally good products, but their build quality is not as good as it could be. And I think what's happened is that some reviewers got one with latency and some didn't. I haven't even looked to see which one mine is or not. Sky Soldier, who has the world speed record for quadcopters? I think that the current record, the validated record, is DCL, which got up to about 160 something miles an hour. But Ryan Lademan and I did an interview with them. I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. Where's the video? I have to find the other guy's name so that I can credit him correctly. The two guys I interviewed were... I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something. Shush. Yeah, Ryan Lademan and Jeremy... What's the guy's name, though? Well, anyway, there's his channel anyway. They did a speed run at 198 miles an hour. However, I don't know if they have had it validated by Ripley's or not, or whether they officially hold the record. But in my opinion, they hold the record at 198 miles an hour. So... Well, we're coming up to the end of the stream. It's 2:53 p.m. I'll be finishing in just about 7 minutes, and I assume Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. on his channel, like he usually does. He's been here in the chat, but Aaron, you still there? You going to be streaming, dude? It was FPV, Sky Soldier. That is correct. Wow. Burker Kanatar, can you please check whether T-Motor 4014 motors are okay to use with 6S and 18-inch props? Burker, I have no context for that. I don't have any experience with props that big or motors that size. I couldn't even begin to figure that out. You should just ask T-Motor, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry, dude. Devin Clancy, thank you for $10 in the super chat. My voltage is fluctuating on the bench in Betaflight and in my goggles. I soldered a new cap with the same results. Using the Holybro Kakute F7 HDV that has voltage monitoring, my second HD one is working properly. I mean, if the voltage is fluctuating, I don't think it's the cap. I don't think it's the capacitor. You could just have, make sure that you have internal ADC selected in the power and battery tab. That's the correct setting for that flight controller. If you have internal ADC selected and you are in fact sure that the voltage is not fluctuating in reality, then I would be thinking about whether to replace the flight controller. Victor wants to know if you can improve the range on the Meteor 65 by soldering on a different antenna. No, probably not. It's just a really poor receiver. If you really want to improve the range, you need an external receiver like an XM receiver or an XM Plus. Sahib Alejandro, thank you for 50 pesos. Sahib says, I always have low RSSI value but good LQ, but I fail-safed anyways because of the low RSSI value. How can I rely on LQ if the RSSI is still bad? Sahib, in my experience, as RSSI goes down, eventually LQ should go down as well. Are you sure that you're getting a valid LQ value? It's possible that your LQ is just bogus and doesn't mean anything. So, when is the Radio Master TX16 coming for review? Blitz FPV. I know that Chinese New Year has held up a lot of things, and now with the Wuhan virus or whatever, that's holding up things. So, coming soon, but I don't know when. Pardon me. Anonix wants to know, in your Cinewoop videos, it looks like you're using the HDO2s when you're flying analog. What about the Orcas? The reason I often reach for the HDO2s is because of the adjustable diopters make it easier for me to use them with my eyes. The Orcas I still use sometimes, but the other thing is that the firmware updates on the Orcas have made their DVR, it has been unreliable. There was a time when the Orca DVR would just, the video would just be corrupted and not play back correctly. Then they fixed it. Then there was another firmware update, and the last time I used the Orcas to record DVR for a video, several of the files just didn't exist. And I was like, that's it. I'm not I mean, they keep releasing firmware updates, and the firmware updates sometimes fix things and sometimes break things. But when I sit down to make a video, I can't take a chance that the DVR is going to be corrupted. And that's why you see me using the HDO2s in those videos anyway. I do still use the Orcas. I still believe in them. I still think they're good goggles. But when it comes to time to sit down and make a video, I often reach for the HDOs because I know the DVR is going to frickin' work. Yeah. Orca fixed the DVR in 114. Yay! And then they also fixed it in 112. And then it broke again. And then they fixed it again. And I'm just like, oh my God, get me off. I want to get off Mr. Bones' wild ride. Felipe Nogaroto Gonzalez says, what do you think about Liftoff Simulator for consoles? That is true. Liftoff is coming to consoles. There is going to be an Xbox version of Liftoff. And I am actually involved in that project. So I think it's pretty freaking awesome. Here, I'll give you guys a little teaser. Hold on. No, hang on. So I'm going to be involved in this project. And this is some concept art that I was sent. What do you think of that? This is some concept art that I was sent for the Liftoff console video game that I will apparently be in. So that's kind of exciting. How about that? All right. Very exciting. Can you use your controller on the console? No, Andy Weiss. Getting controller use, the console manufacturers are very protective about peripherals. You will not be able to use your console. You'll have to use a controller. So obviously for people who actually fly RC, this is a novelty. The goal of this game is to expose people who are gamers to the world of FPV. So you're going to be flying with your controller. They have done some things to help make the controller more viable. But obviously, if you're actually an RC pilot, you're going to find it a little frustrating. And you're going to, yeah. Robin H., which FPV backpack do I recommend? I use the Torval Pitstop Pro. Personally, I think it's the best. Redbeard the Pilot, thanks for $5. And it is just now 3 p.m. So I'm not going to run long. I'm going to sign off and let Aaron Ciotti, go ahead and post your stream one more time, Aaron. If you guys cannot get enough of the live streaming, go raid Aaron Ciotti's stream. He is going to be doing some, I don't know what he's doing. Usually micro stuff. He's been doing a ton of giveaways. So go for the giveaways. Yeah, FPV Jitsu, the throttle being on a spring is going to matter. We'll see how they deal with that. They have said that they are doing things to make it easier to fly with a controller. We'll just let Aaron Ciotti post his live stream one more time so you guys can head on over there if you like, and then we're going to sign off. I will see you guys again tomorrow, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern for my Monday live stream. It's going to be a big week this week on the channel. It is the first week of the month. I'll be doing my new product roundup and giveaway. Last time I gave away $400 worth of chargers. Who knows what I'll give away this month? Maybe I'll give away some Tango 2s. I don't know. That's going to be this week. I've also got a video that I'm calling Free Sky Hates Tiny Whoops. And that's the video I got out of bed to make at 11 p.m. because I was so fired up. So look forward to that. Maybe Foxy or Wildfire if I can get it tested. Did Ciotti post? Ciotti. All right, guys. We're going to sign off, though. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow for the live stream on Monday and all throughout the week. Happy flying, everybody.